Hi everybody, Lee Scott here, and thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. We are on here talking about life, leadership, and legacy, and I hope that you're inspired, equipped, and empowered throughout this process. Now, what's cool about today is I don't have any special guests, but you're going to be hearing from me for the first time on this season of Leading with Lee. So before I start sharing, I just want you to go do something for me on YouTube and on all podcasting platforms. Go subscribe today to Leading with Lee. I want you to go and subscribe and watch and look at the last season, and also watch this season on YouTube and possibly on Spotify and all platforms soon. So today it's going to be super cool because this week is a very special week for me personally. This week actually is my 28th birthday. So I'm doing a special episode about what I've learned over this last year, and it's going to be super exciting for your boy to share about what's going on in his life. So with that being said, happy birthday to me. And let's get started to talk about life, leadership, and legacy. So I just want to share a few facts about me. Most people who may not be that close to me may not know that there are quite a few things that makes me unique or makes Lee, right? There are things that like you may not understand or may not know about me, but in this episode, I'm going to share a little bit about myself, my personal history, but also share with you some of the things that I have learned over this last year. So let me give you a few facts that you may or may not know. My favorite show in the world is Parks and Recreation. I drive my girlfriend crazy about Parks and Recreation. I love this show so much. I love everything about the show. I'm currently rewatching the show from beginning to end. This is maybe my third time watching the show. I love this show so much, and I don't know why I love it so much, but it is basically about this small town or this woman who loves her small town so much, is working in the Parks and Recreation department, and she really fights to ensure that the people in her community are benefiting from the work that she does. And so it pretty much talks about her life and talks about their department, which is the Parks and Recreation department, and how they go through the process of trying to build a park. They try to transform the community. She ends up running for city council. I mean, all kinds of stuff. I love Parks and Recreation. It is my favorite show in the world. And literally, I drive my girlfriend crazy about it because I love Leslie Knope. I feel like Leslie Knope is somebody I can aspire to be like and look up to because she cares about the dedication that she has to her community and to her city. Fact number two, my nickname is actually Drew. So the story behind this is kind of interesting. Obviously, this podcast and vlog is called Leading with Lee. And most people don't know me personally well enough to know that my nickname is Drew. And when I tell people that my nickname is Drew, they're either thrown off because most people that grew up with me and know me as a kid have always called me Drew. Even when I would get birthday cards, when I would get letters, when I would get all kinds of stuff from people who grew up with me or knew me as a child growing up, they would write it Drew Scott. My last name is Scott. And they would always write Drew Scott. And to be honest, I had no problem with it, but that's actually not my name. So my name is actually Lee Andrew Scott II. And so therefore, because I'm named after my dad, my mom, when I was a kid, started to call me Drew, which is so, it could have been a more unique nickname, but Drew is an actual name. So nobody would think, oh, this is this kid's nickname. But no, that's kind of the history of me being called Drew and why it has been super important to me, because this is a point of reference for identity for me. What's interesting about my family calling me Drew, it creates this level of peace and safety for me now as I look back as an adult. And I realize so many significant moments have happened as a result of me being called Drew for a good portion of my life and still being called Drew to this day. Last but not least, the cool fact that I want to share about me is my favorite artist is Maxwell. My girlfriend knows that I am a huge Maxwell fan. I can't even remember how I even became a Maxwell fan, but it seems like ever since I first heard his voice, I was like, this dude has an incredible sound. He has a very raspy, like unique tone to his voice. And we kind of have similar ranges. If you didn't know, I do sing, but I never sing on here. But what's cool about Maxwell is that he is such a unique sound and unique voice. And it's always been cool to just hear him sing and share and, do what he does as a vocalist. And I think I really, really start to get hip to Maxwell probably about 10 or 12 years ago, but I don't know what kind of tied me in, but I've always loved his voice. I've always been a fan of his voice, especially the last 10 years or so. And it's because one of the things that he's been the person that introduced me big time to neo soul. Like I didn't really have context for the neo soul era in music, but Maxwell has been a linchpin or a flashpoint for me of my love for now neo soul and that era of great artists like Erykah Badu and Jill Scott and Lauryn Hill and India Arie and D'Angelo and Music Soul Tribe and all these artists who have really influenced me, especially now in my adult life. This is like the songs and the music of my adulthood. And it's been so cool to just hear them and listen to them throughout the last year or so. It's been or last few years, actually, really. It's been really cool to hear these artists and hear what they have to share as it relates to music. So there are 4 things that I want to share with you today about what I have learned in this last year. 27 has been such an interesting ride for me personally. At this time last year, I was still doing leading. I was in my first year of doing leading as a vlog and podcast. And so it was a really interesting time for me. And it has really shaped who I am in a lot of ways and actually really brought a lot of fulfillment at this particular time. But then a lot of things have transpired in the last year for me personally and for the people around me, that has influenced how leading is done and how I operate as it relates to leading. And so what I'm really looking for in this next year, I'll get to share that here in a moment, but it has been a very interesting thing. So I want to share 4 things with you about what I have learned in the last year. Number 1, I have learned that learning is a vital part of leading. Number 2, I've learned that to give myself grace. Number 3, I've also learned that I've accomplished a lot more and there's so much more in front of me. And then lastly, I've learned to be present and intentional in every moment. And that has been a big thing for me. Well, first, learning is a vital part of leading. When I tell you that I have learned so much in the last year of my life, it has been incredible, the things that I have learned about myself, about how I function in relationships, about how I see the world and how I walk and do the things that I do. It has been so rewarding for me to actually be challenged to think about how am I showing up in the world? And it's pretty profound to me that most of my life, I've not really thought much about the impact of moments that I've been in, but especially the last few years, I've been thinking a lot about what am I gaining from the moments that I'm in? Like, this time last year, one of my best friends was producing leading, and he played a pivotal role, Kyle Sturck, who I love dearly. But so much in his life personally has changed for him. So therefore, I had to learn a whole new set of skills. The way people have seen Leading with Lee this season has been me literally shooting the content in my apartment. I'm literally sitting in my apartment. I've went and bought lights. I've bought an external camera. I've learned some skills. I've learned how to use Zoom in a unique way. These experiences have taught me so much. And I've learned how to edit content and all those different things. Like, main thing I was pretty much doing with leading was once, posting it on YouTube and posting it on through Spreaker and posting all those episodes, and people would see those episodes or listen to those episodes through those platforms. That's all I was doing. And then I would go back and cut it using this app called InShot and all those different things. And that was the main thing that I was doing with leading. But now I'm executive producing the show. I'm editing the show. I'm putting all the content together. And it has taught me a skill that I needed to actually cause me to grow in some ways that I never thought I could grow. And I think one of the things that's been encouraging for me and what I've learned this year has been recognizing that all of us have an opportunity to learn something new about what we do, but also about ourselves. Like one thing I've learned this year about myself is that I need to be willing to be okay with not being okay. One of the things I really struggle with is always trying to do everything that I can to help everybody else, but failing to say, Lee, you're not okay right now. Speak your mind. In the last year, I've learned to just say how I feel and what I'm experiencing with trusted people that care about me or trusted people that I know have my best interests at heart. I've been so more willing to say, man, I'm struggling with this. Man, I'm really going through it right now. Could you help me? Could you give me more perspective? Could you just be there for me? Because I recognize that there's some stuff that is really hard. I mean, all of us know 2020 and even now into 2021 has been a very difficult, emotionally stressful time for all of us. And when we analyze and think throughout this last year or so, a lot of us have had more time to reflect on the impact of things that have happened in our spaces and in our time. And I think it's really important for us to really think about what or how am I showing up in the world, but how am I being affected by what I've experienced throughout this last year or so. And I think that can be really critical to our own personal growth and is a teaching moment. We've lost a lot. We've been through a lot. But the thing about these moments is it's ultimately about us figuring out how to learn and be productive and gain some knowledge and gain some understanding and gain some clarity about the world around us in these moments. And I think that that's been super helpful for me, and it's actually made me a better person. Number two, give myself some grace. Now, this is a tough point for me because I am very much so a perfectionist. I'm very much so critical of my own work. I'm very much so hard on myself. And this season, I've had to learn to give myself some grace because the reality is there's so much pressure, right? Throughout the last year, as many of you know, I've been getting my master's. I just finished my master's earlier this year, and that process was difficult. I'm working full time. I'm going to grad school. I'm trying to maintain what I do with leading, and I'm trying to be a great boyfriend to Brianna. And also give myself some time for myself and also be there for my friends. Like, that's not an easy feat. And many times I have felt like a failure in doing that. I felt as if I was not doing that well enough. And it really caused me to have some clarity of thought about what is actually important. What does it mean to accomplish what I accomplished? And there are many times where I said, man, oh, I'm not doing this, or hey, I'm unavailable at that time, or hey, I can't do this. Hey, I actually am not okay. I'm realizing that I'm stressed out. I'm dealing with so much stuff. And by the grace of God, I've been able to get through the things that I've gotten through over the last year. But the main thing for me has been recognizing that it has been a privilege and an honor to do the things that I do. But the main thing for me has been, Lee, you've got an opportunity to be honest and authentic about some of the things that you've been experiencing and been going through in your own life. And it's necessary for you to recognize the impact of what is happening in your space. You got to know how to function. You got to know how to operate. You got to know how to realize and understand the reach of what you're doing, the space in which you are functioning in the world. Like, and I think I've learned to give myself grace, to say, Lee, it is okay that you didn't complete this. It's okay that you didn't finish this. It's okay that you didn't post that video. It's okay that you didn't say yes to this event. It's okay that you didn't give the money that you said you wanted to give, or you weren't able to go to this certain place, or you weren't able to do this certain thing. It's okay. Like, give yourself some grace. You are doing better than you think you are. Give yourself some grace. And I know this is an encouragement for somebody who's watching this or listening to this, even right now, even as I'm sharing this. Like, as I do leading, even this year, I had some struggles with trying to post the podcast version of leading. It became very difficult. It was very hard for me to figure out, why am I struggling with this whole process? And it became a thing where I really, really gave up on it. I really struggled with it, but it's okay. It's a learning process. It's okay for me to not be perfect at this, but in the process of working to be perfect, working to get better and move forward, I can learn something new about myself, and I can actually accomplish more than I think that I can accomplish, which leads me to number 3. I have accomplished a lot more than I actually give myself credit for. You know, it's crazy because a lot of times we judge ourselves by what we have done in comparison to other people, and we never actually judge ourselves by the distance we have gone from the moment or from the place that we were previously. Like, it is important for you to recognize that, fam, if you got something done, if you completed a project, if you got the degree, if you went to a class, if you stepped out, if you changed your diet, if you just woke up earlier, if you did it one time, that is a step forward. It doesn't mean that you are irresponsible or jacked up because you didn't take or you didn't do it at all. Like, it takes a lot of courage to take the first step. The first step is actually the most important step. For me, with Leading with Leah, and I've shared this many, many times before, my first step was me saying in 2018 to one of my best friends, man, I'm going to host this seminar. Man, I'm going to host this event where I'm going to share about leadership. I don't really have no money. You know, I can't charge people for this. I can't do that. But I don't have money to, set up a venue or anything like that. But I'm going to step out and do this because I believe that I have something to say. I have something to share. And I think that that's the thing that many of us need to learn. We need to learn that, honestly, it is about you taking the step. It's not about when you took the step. It's the fact that you did take the step. That's what life is about. It's about us being willing to step out and say, I can do this. I can make a difference. I can be impactful. I can be significant in the world. I can be somebody that people look at their lives and say, man, they're incredible. They're amazing. They're effective. They have figured out how to move and function in the world in a way that is super helpful for all of us to understand who we can be. That's the type of person I want to be. I want people to look back at my life and say, man, he tried. He at least tried. He didn't give up. He didn't allow circumstances and situations to cause him to not believe that he could do it. And this is what it takes to be somebody that's impactful. This is what it takes. It takes you being willing to take the step. And that's what matters for us. And what I've come to realize is, bro, you've accomplished a lot. Starting leading was an accomplishment. Being consistent with leading was an accomplishment. Posting YouTube videos bi-weekly is an accomplishment. Getting on a podcast platform is an accomplishment. Editing videos every week and trying to post content is an accomplishment. It may not be what everybody else does. It may not be at the level that some people think it should be. It may not even what I think it should be. It's the fact that I did it and I was consistent and I kept putting in the work. And that's what matters, is you putting in the work. And that's what you can be able to look back on and say, man, if nobody celebrates what I do, if nobody says that it's great, if nobody says it's incredible, I can look back and say, man, you accomplished something. You stepped out on faith and you said, man, I'm going to do this. If nobody watches, I'm going to do it because I believe that it's impactful. I believe that I have something to share. I believe that I have something to say. I believe that people can be impacted by the vision that I have and the perception that I have about how do we show up in the world. I want to show up in the world. I want to leave my mark on the world. And that's what matters to me. And so I feel accomplished. I feel like, man, you've gone out here and tried. You've gone out here and posted videos. You've gone out here and come on other people's podcasts. You invited people onto your podcast and vlog. When you didn't have the resources, you used what was in your hand to create an opportunity for you to do something that people needed to hear. Even if nobody listens, somebody's going to hear you. And that's what matters. If it's just for you, somebody heard it. And that's the thing about life. Sometimes we get so caught up in trying to impress everybody else that we forget that the person that might need to hear what you have to say is you. You might need to be your biggest cheerleader. You might need to be the one that encourages yourself, that inspires yourself, that celebrates yourself, that gives an applause to yourself. You might need to do that for yourself. Because the reality is, in this life, everybody won't celebrate you. Everybody won't applaud you. Everybody won't be there to be like, man, you did an awesome job. Sometimes you got to do it for yourself. So give yourself some permission. This year, I've been giving myself some permission to celebrate Lee. If nobody celebrates Lee, I know my birthday's this weekend. Hey, let's go. But if nobody celebrates Lee, I'm going to give myself the permission to celebrate me. To tell myself, man, you're worthy. You have been through too much. You are loved. You matter. What you say matters. What you do matters to your family. The master's degree that you got, it matters to your family. The bachelor's degree you got, it matters to your family. Your grandfather, Roosevelt Scott, is celebrated in heaven right now because you got your degree, boy. Bro, you did this. Bro, your family that's still alive, your grandmother's, your great-grandmother Emily is celebrating you because you went forward and did it. It is about what you do, not about the circumstances in which you didn't accomplish something or you didn't finish something. It's the fact that you did it. Be encouraged that you can do something that matters. Like, you can do something that really, really, really matters. And my last and final point. Be present and intentional in every moment. Trust me, this year has taught me intentionality, the importance, the necessity, the desire for intentionality. And when I tell you, there have been so many times where I've had to have intentional conversations with folks. So many times where I could have got grieved by the fact that they might have said something to me or done something or our interaction was wrong or whatever. So many times I could have gotten caught up in that. But what I have learned in my life, especially this last year, is that in those moments where I'm trying to figure out how do I respond, how do I function, how do I operate in this opportunity, I have learned that, Lee, you have to be intentional. You have to be present. You have to understand the circumstances by which this person might be responding to you. You have to consider everything. It can't just be, hey, you know what, bro, you're trash. I'm going about my business. No, you got to figure out how to have some humility and understand this person has a vantage point. This person has a perspective. Why do they do what they do? Why do they say the things that they say? Why do they operate in the way that they operate? Now, listen. The important thing in what I'm saying is, it doesn't mean you let people run over you. It doesn't mean that you don't protect the sanctity of your peace. I believe in protecting your peace. I believe in protecting the spaces that you're in. I believe that you must keep your energy, your focus, everything around you safe and sound. And I also believe that the way we learn and function and grow in the world especially learn and grow in the world, is through us becoming a student of people. When we become a student of people, when we become a student of situations, it gives us a perspective that can be so potent and powerful in the greatest moments of our lives, in the most difficult moments of our lives. Being present in every moment, being grateful for every moment, saying, man, I'm so thankful that I got to see today. There's so many of us who are living in a moment right now during COVID where we are seeing folks dying left and right around us, whether it is from COVID or something else. The pressure, the weight that we are experiencing and feeling from death around us is taxing. It's hard to live a life when you feel as if you cannot process or progress or even move forward. You're feeling the trauma of the moment. But I always think back to folks who have gone before me who endured and they had a hope. I was literally having a conversation with several of my friends and even with my girlfriend, Brianna, my baby Bree, who I love so much, about this one idea that has stuck with me to this moment. That African Americans, my ancestors, people have gone before me, lived through the Jim Crow, they lived through slavery, they lived through the civil rights movement, and even up until now, and they kept believing that things were possible and things could change. They could have been cynical, and it would have been warranted, and it would have been okay. And many were cynical. And many of them lived in some cynicism. But I believe cynicism is a way to propel us towards finding the truth so that we can have hope. One of the greatest things that we can learn in this life is to learn to have hope. Hope is a powerful thing. Belief is a powerful thing. It makes a kid like me who grew up in West and South Jackson, Mississippi, growing up in very impoverished neighborhoods, growing up in situations where, thank God, my parents had very decent jobs, but not knowing that we really didn't have a lot of money. It made this kid believe that he could get a degree. It made this kid believe that he could get a master's degree. And someday it's making this kid believe that he can get a doctorate. It's make this kid believe that he can be impactful in the world. It's make this kid believe that he can start a podcast and vlog. It's because even though I grew up in a situation where my parents, yes, they were great and they're fantastic, but our neighborhood, we went through so much stuff in our neighborhood. My next door neighbor was hit by a car. Thank God he survived, but he was hit by a car. There was a shooting that happened literally a block from my house. Literally a house over from my house. This woman's house was burned to the ground. I remember it like yesterday. I was about 10 or 11 years old. We walk outside. This woman's house is engulfed in flames because her boyfriend thought she had broken up with him. And out of anger, this man set this woman's house on fire. And in setting this woman's house on fire, it created a moment of fear that could have been perpetuated in my heart and in my life. I've shared this many times before, and I've shared it on here last year, that I was molested as a kid. That could have broken everything in me. That thing that I didn't understand was such a significant thing. It could have broke me, but yet and still I'm sitting here today because it's because of the power of hope. Hope has kept me. My faith in God has kept me. My belief that I can do something that matters has kept me. It's kept me sane. When I thought depression was going to take me out, when I thought fear was going to take me out, when I thought anxiety was going to take me out, hope has kept and saved my life. So in all this being said today, I know it's my birthday weekend, but it is inherent for me to encourage you to really believe that in your life, when I talk about leading, I'm not just talking about a positional thing. I believe leadership is a mindset. It's how you think. The way we lead in culture, the way we affect the world, is through the idea that we can be impactful. It's through believing in ourselves, believing that we have a purpose, believing that we're here on purpose, believing that we can transform the world around us, meaning your world, meaning the people that live in your household, meaning the people you work with. You can influence them. You can be impactful around them. You can be a positive, productive, and powerful influence for somebody else. But you have to believe. You got to believe. And that's what our world needs from you, is that you believe. Thank you for watching and or listening to this week's episode of Leading with Lee. If you have not done it yet, subscribe today on YouTube and all podcasting platforms. To get more information about me and what I'm doing, email me at scottconsultations@gmail.com or follow me on social media on Twitter and especially Instagram at Lee A. Scott II or Lee A. Scott II. Thank you for watching this week's episode. I really appreciate it. Much love, and let's get started.